like, here's the thing about mindset. A mindset will not change the shitty situation you're in. A positive mindset changes you, which changes your ability to deal with the shitty situation that you're in.
The only way to shift out of any of these kinds of scenarios is to take an action first, right? As hard as that is. And the emotions, the perceptions, all of that follows action, not the other way around.
100% true. So how I discovered this in my life is during this horrible period in life. So 2008, every morning I would wake up and I would immediately start spinning the negative thoughts. We're fucked. I hate my husband. How did we end up here? I can't believe I did that stupid ass show. I've made so many mistakes. I should just flush my life, the last 40 years down the toilet. I'm so embarrassed. I'm the world's worst mother. I'd stare at the ceiling. I was like a human pot roast marinating in fear. And then, of course, the anxiety would wave up my body and pin me down to that bed, and I'd hit the snooze button. And I would hit the snooze button 4 or 5 times a morning. By the time I woke up, the kids had missed the bus. So we got 3 kids under the age of 10. Chris was long gone because he's a very smart man, and he did not want to be in the house when I was awake. And he was trying to fix the situation that they were in. And I would literally scream at the kids, get them in the car, and from there the day was just horrible. And then every night I would do the same thing. I'd say, that's it. Tomorrow morning it's got to be the new me. Everybody that struggles with addiction does this exact same thing. Tomorrow I'm not drinking. That's it. I'm done with this. And then the next morning it's the same fucking pattern of negative crap that you're doing to yourself. And this is exactly what you talk about all the time. It's not the what you need to do, it's how. How do you make yourself do the things that feel hard or scary or don't seem like they're going to work because you're resigned and you're stuck in your patterns? That was me. I knew I needed to get out of bed. I knew I needed to stop drinking. I knew I needed to look for a job. I knew this wasn't Chris's fault and I needed to stop screaming at him all the time, but I wasn't doing any of those things. I didn't know how. And so this was the moment I created the 5-second rule. And again, this is another I-beam or T-beam or whatever the hell beam it's called. I'm sitting in front of the television and I am watching TV. The kids are in bed and I'm drinking bourbon and I'm probably on like my 4th Manhattan and I'm having my nightly pep talk and I'm going, that's it. Tomorrow morning, it's the new me. I got to wake up. I got to do this. I got to do the other thing. And all of a sudden, Rich, honest to goodness, I see a rocket ship launch at the end of a commercial. And I go, that's it. Tomorrow morning, I'm launching myself out of bed like a rocket. And that was the beginning of the 5-second rule.
What's so interesting about that are these, you talk about like hitting your bottom, and this is a bottom for sure. But in that kind of reckoning where the pain of your current circumstance exceeds the fear of doing something different, no matter how small that difference is, there's like a crack in the universe, like a little opening, right? Where you have just the slightest bit of willingness that you didn't have the day before. And even the tiniest action, whether it's picking up the phone to make a call or counting back down from 5, when you look back now, it's like, I did a couple little things that changed my life forever. This incident, obviously changed your life forever. And it's kind of amazing in a beautiful, mystical way how that occurs.
Well, let me tell you my intention for this conversation. That you listening to us have this podcast be that crack that lets some light in and becomes a sliding door, that you might just see, oh, wow, maybe if that phone call I'm avoiding or counting backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or high-fiving myself in the mirror, even though I don't think I deserve it and I think it's stupid and I'm a failure and why is this going to help, that you try it.
Yeah.
Because I think that you can trace back to our dots analogy. Any change in trajectory was just a moment. And for me, that moment was when the alarm went off, I just counted backwards like NASA launches a rocket, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I stood up. And you know what my first reaction to it was?
This is fucking stupid.
Correct. Resignation.
Yeah.
It was immediately like, okay, so you can get out of bed. So fucking what? You're $800,000 in debt, Mel. How is this going to help? And thankfully, I thought, well, what the hell do I have to lose? Why not just for one day? Anytime, Mel, you know what you should do, but you don't feel like it. Or anytime your emotions start to hijack you, or anytime you feel afraid or anxious or whatever, why don't you just count backwards and see what happens? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back. But so here's the other thing that taught me. It's what gave me that sort of high five attitude, this mantra. And the mantra, because as I was schlepping through airports and I'm thinking I'm the world's biggest failure, I kept saying this to myself on repeat. There is no way, Mel, if you've worked this hard, that you will not be rewarded. You have to believe that this moment is preparing you for something amazing that hasn't happened yet. Keep going. You have to believe that this moment is preparing you for something amazing that hasn't happened yet. Keep going. And so I repeated that over and over and over and over and over again as I wanted to throw in the towel, as I would start to bash myself, as I would start to feel sorry for myself and be like, nope, there's just no way I'm going to believe that something amazing isn't going to happen. I've worked too hard. Something amazing that hasn't happened is coming. And when you get yourself into that mindset, it creates a sense of resilience and momentum and resolve that you need in order to keep going when the shit hits the fan or when you feel disappointed or when life is beating you down. And that was the other gift of that moment, is developing a little tool to flip my mindset when I wanted to start to feel sorry for myself. And part of the genius of this is that when you start counting backwards, you've already committed to taking action. So the counting itself moves you from a bias towards thinking toward a bias toward action. And the more you repeat it, the more you break the pattern of thinking and you program in a pattern of taking small actions. It creates agile moves, an agile mindset. So that's one thing. The second thing that's crazy cool about this is that the reason why it's so fucking hard to change is because you talk about changing with the prefrontal cortex. You're conscious when you sit in your therapist chair or you're listening to me and Rich, and you're using this sort of strategic part of your brain. The second that you're in a situation where you're procrastinating or you're thinking negative thoughts, it's your subconscious that's in charge of you. And so in order to change, you have to interrupt subconscious patterns. You see, the 5-second rule isn't just some dumb counting backwards thing. It is a form of metacognition that interrupts the patterns stored in your subconscious brain. Counting backwards requires you to focus, which flips on your prefrontal cortex. It gives you a moment of control over what you think and do next. That's the genius of it. And the reason why I'm so fucking passionate about this is not only because kids can use it and senior citizens can use it. You don't have to have any kind of education or speak any kind of language. It works for anybody that uses it, is because I am now standing with millions of people that have tried it. And we have pediatricians around the world that are using it to help kids interrupt thoughts that trigger anxiety, veterans organizations that are using 5-4-3-2-1 to help reprogram responses to triggers. We had an entire wing of a Pennsylvania psychiatric inpatient nursing unit show up at the talk show to tell me that of all of the tools that they give people that have an inpatient commit, the single most positive and effective tool is the 5-second rule, because it is simple, you remember it, and it immediately interrupts the negative and suicidal ideations that torture people. And speaking of suicide, we know of 111 people who have stopped themselves from taking their lives by 5-4-3-2-1, asking for help. So I am here to tell you, I don't give a fuck how stupid you think this is. I want you to try it. I want you to share it with people, because interrupting the patterns of thought and behavior that are holding you back and pushing yourself to take action or to think something different, it is the only way you are going to change. And this is a tool that's going to help you bridge that gap. Boom!
I know.